Hi, I'm Nick Knoll, author of Last Call for Freedom, While Black Lives and All American Lives Still Matter. Most Americans don't have a clue about how close we are to losing our freedom completely. This isn't something that we can put off for a few more years. We need to do something about it now, or we won't be able to. President Obama once joked that his job would be easier if he were president of China. That comment wasn't meant for us to hear, and the media quickly buried it. But what he said wasn't really a joke. He would like Democrats to have as much control over us as the communists have over people in China. He promised us a fundamental transformation, and he and his chosen successor intend to finish it. In China, communists control where you can live and what kind of work you can do. They monitor your emails, your internet use, and your phone calls. They control religious leaders, housing, medical care, and everything else they want to control. They may allow you to have one child or two, but if you get pregnant again, you better have an abortion. In 1989, the Chinese people protested for freedom of speech and freedom of the press in at least 5 cities. About 1 million of them protested around Tiananmen Square in Beijing until their government attacked them with rifles and tanks. The goal of democratic leaders has always been to control people. Rich plantation owners founded their party to help them get common white men involved in helping them protect slavery. Then, after slavery was abolished after the Civil War, democratic leaders subjugated black people through segregation, KKK terrorism, and lynchings for about 100 years. Democratic President Woodrow Wilson praised the KKK as he segregated the U.S. federal government and our armed forces. Democratic President Franklin Roosevelt partially transformed our country from the protector of our freedom into our master. All of the steps he used were the same steps that were in the Communist Manifesto. Democratic leaders made the Depression worse, especially for black Americans, and they made it last longer than it should have, while they built a huge bureaucracy to control all Americans, no matter who wins the elections. The only reason that Democratic leaders and most of their KKK followers took off their white sheets and hoods 50 years ago was because Democratic President Lyndon Johnson, their longtime segregationist leader, came up with a way to make all Americans pay for the Democratic Party's subjugation of black Americans through welfare, federal housing, and food stamps. Malcolm X warned black Americans about the Democratic Party's plan, saying, "You've been misled, you've been had, you've been took." But a few days later, Malcolm X was assassinated, and the mass media buried his words with him. Now, millions of black Americans live mostly segregated on modern urban plantations amid crime and violence that Democrats' policies have created. Democratic leaders use the federal government to feed, clothe, house, and control them, almost as if they were slaves. They control mass media propaganda and indoctrinate our children in schools to make most Americans believe that the Democratic leaders are helping black Americans. Now, Democratic leaders have brought our country to the point of a collapse worse than the Great Depression. Our national debt is 20 times what it was in 1980. The Social Security system that Americans have paid into for all our lives is bankrupt. Now, every payment depends on more taxes and more borrowing. Millions more depend on welfare and other payments from the same bankrupt government. But it's not politically correct to talk about all that. Today, we're all losing our freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the press, and self-defense. If Democrats get one more justice on the Supreme Court, we'll become no more better able to defend ourselves than the people on Tiananmen Square in China. We're almost there. President Obama and his chosen successor, Mrs. Clinton, will put us there if we don't play the Trump card, elect a Republican majority to Congress, and start pushing Republicans to correct the damage that Democrats have done to Black Americans and to all of us. All the details and what we must do now to preserve our freedom are in my book, Last Call for Freedom, While Black Lives and All American Lives Still Matter. It's available now at lastcallforfreedom.com and on Amazon.com.